The Exarlian fleet hung like a constellation of obsidian blades against the inky blackness of space, their ships a testament to millennia of technological superiority. Captain Jack Reynolds knew this moment was different. This wasn't just another drill or a routine monitoring exercise. Confirm visual, he muttered into his headset, though the holographic display already confirmed what his eyes saw. 17 massive vessels, each easily dwarfing anything humanity had ever constructed, positioned themselves with mechanical precision around Earth's orbital zone. Lieutenant Anna Petrova, the station's lead communications specialist, broke the silence. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies, sir." Her fingers danced across the quantum-encrypted interface, routing and analyzing the incoming transmission. The alien message materialized on the central display, a crystalline language that transformed into translated text before their eyes. Reynolds read the words, each syllable dripping with condescension. "Inhabitants of Earth designation. Primitive civilization. Species TLA Sci-Fi. DEVELOPMENTAILED stage OMEGA minus. Surrender is RECOMMENENDD. Resistancy will result in immediate SOS HEMIC in EU2 realization." Jack's lips curled into a sardonic smile. Decades of preparation had led to this moment. The global network they'd built, a system so complex and deeply integrated that most of humanity remained blissfully unaware of its existence, was about to be tested. "Anna, activate Protocol Nighthawk," he commanded. Without hesitation, Lieutenant Petrova entered a complex sequence of quantum-encrypted commands. Across the globe, in hidden facilities buried beneath mountains, underneath oceans, and in carefully camouflaged orbital stations, systems began to pulse with carefully contained energy. In a nondescript research facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Elena Rodriguez looked up from her workstation. Her team of engineers and xenobiologists had spent the last 2 decades preparing for this exact scenario. The alien scanning beams washing over Earth were nothing more than an invitation, and humanity was about to send a response that would be remembered across the galaxy. Back on the space station, Reynolds watched the Exarlian fleet's initial probing scans. They believed they were seeing a fractured, technologically primitive civilization. What they were actually scanning was an elaborate, globally coordinated defense network that had been meticulously designed to appear weak and disorganized. "They think we're divided," Jack murmured to himself. "They have no idea." A secondary communication channel flickered to life, a direct link to the Global Defense Coordination Center. Colonel Emma Whittaker's face appeared, her expression a mixture of anticipation and calculated calm. "Reynolds, we're green across all theaters," she reported. "Initial projections confirm that Exarlian fleet composition matches our long-range intelligence. Estimated combat capabilities are marginally above our preliminary models." Jack nodded. The word marginally was deliberate, a subtle psychological indicator that humanity was not only prepared but potentially underestimated. Unbeknownst to the Exarlian fleet, every scan they performed was being deliberately manipulated. Data streams were subtly altered, sensor readings carefully crafted to present a specific narrative. To the aliens, Earth appeared as a fractured world of limited technological development, ripe for conquest. In truth, it was a meticulously laid trap. The quantum communication network hummed with potential energy. Adaptive AI systems, developed through decades of conflicting global research, were already analyzing the alien technology. Each scan the Exarlian fleet performed was another piece of data being absorbed, analyzed, and prepared to be turned against them. Lieutenant Petrova's console suddenly lit up with a series of complex algorithmic patterns. "Sir," she called out, "initial xenolinguistic analysis of their communication protocol is complete. We're developing translation and communication exploit vectors." Reynolds knew what that meant. They weren't just preparing to defend, they were preparing to communicate on their own terms. The Exarlian fleet continued its methodical approach, completely unaware that each moment brought them closer to a confrontation that would redefine their understanding of technological warfare. Humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to adapt, to turn perceived weakness into unexpected strength. This was going to be a lesson that Charlian Imperium would not soon forget. Colonel Emma Whittaker's command center buzzed with controlled chaos. Massive holographic displays tracked the alien fleet's positioning, each movement analyzed in real time by an array of quantum computers and specialized AI systems. The Xarlian ultimatum continued to loop across global communication networks, a deliberate psychological strategy to instill fear and force submission. "Break down the transmission," she ordered to Dr. Marcus Franklin, the lead xenolinguistic analyst seated to her right. Franklin's fingers flew across his interface, dissecting the alien message layer by layer. "It's more than just a demand for surrender," he explained, his voice a mixture of scientific excitement and professional detachment. "They're conducting a comprehensive psychological assessment. Each phrase is designed to probe our collective psychological resilience." On the primary display, the alien message continued to scroll. "Earth civilization. DNONSTORATs, sureti CAL, VULNARABILID. Internal co-enphylakete parameteors, 89.7% PROBABILITY, of HFY failure. Technological DISPRIT, extreme CATEGORICAL separation. Emma knew better. What that Xarlian saw as vulnerability was actually humanity's greatest strength, its capacity for rapid adaptation and unexpected cooperation. In the United Nations emergency session, representatives from every global power sat in tense silence. The Chinese delegation, the American Joint Chiefs, European Union strategists, and representatives from emerging technological powerhouses like India and Brazil all watched the alien transmission with a unified purpose. General Robert Chen, head of the United States Space Defense Command, leaned forward. "They're giving us an opportunity to surrender before total engagement," he observed. Classic imperial strategy. Minimize resource expenditure by psychological capitulation. A holographic image of the Xarlian fleet rotated slowly, revealing intricate details of their ship designs. Massive energy conduits, weapon systems that defied current human understanding, and propulsion technologies that made Earth's most advanced spacecraft look like children's toys. "They're not wrong about the technological gap," whispered United Nations Secretary General Amara Diallo. "Our entire combined military capabilities would be decimated in hours." But Emma Whittaker saw something different. Where others saw insurmountable technological superiority, she saw opportunity. "Marcus," she called to the linguist, "run a comprehensive analysis of communication patterns. I want to know everything about how they structure linguistic dominance." Dr. Franklin's systems began processing at quantum speeds. Hidden within the alien transmission were subtle communication patterns, methods of psychological manipulation that had been used across countless conquered civilizations. But humanity had something that Xarlian could never anticipate. A global network of psychological warfare experts who had been preparing for this exact moment. In a secure facility beneath the Cheyenne Mountain complex, a team of specialists from diverse backgrounds, linguists, psychologists, mathematicians, and communication theorists, began crafting humanity's response. "They're using a hierarchical communication model," explained Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who had been transferred from the Rocky Mountain Research Facility. "Each transmission is designed to trigger specific neurological responses of submission and hopelessness." General Chen nodded. "So we'll design a response that does the exact opposite." The Global Defense Network was more than just a military strategy. It was a comprehensive system that had been quietly developed over decades, a testament to humanity's ability to unite when facing an existential threat. Quantum communication nodes spread across the planet began to align. Satellite networks, previously used for mundane communication and navigation, transformed into a massive integrated defense grid. Each system was designed with multiple layers of redundancy, capable of continuing operation, even if significant portions were destroyed. Transmission preparation complete, announced a computer system with clinical precision. The response would not be a conventional diplomatic message. It would be a carefully constructed communication designed to do more than just resist. It would challenge the very psychological framework of Harlian imperial strategy. Colonel Whittaker looked at the assembled team. Decades of preparation, countless simulations, and a deep understanding of human potential were about to be tested. "Send our response," she commanded. The message was short, precise, and would become a defining moment in human history. "You wanted war. Prepare to be STKO." The transmission went out across every frequency, encrypted in layers of quantum complexity that would take the Xarlian centuries to fully comprehend. First contact was about to become first conflict. Dr. Michael Anderson's fingers traced holographic displays in the underground research complex, a facility so deeply buried that even most government officials were unaware of its existence. The Rocky Mountain base represented the pinnacle of humanity's secret technological development, a culmination of global cooperation hidden behind layers of misdirection and strategic secrecy. "Activate Project Prometheus," he muttered into his communication implant. Across the globe, dormant systems began to pulse with life. What appeared to be ordinary infrastructure, communication towers, deep-sea research stations, seemingly abandoned satellite arrays, transformed into a complex, interconnected defense network. In the Arctic Research Station, Dr. Liang Wei monitored quantum communication nodes that had been disguised as climate research equipment. Each node was a sophisticated piece of technology that could simultaneously analyze, communicate, and defend against potential extraterrestrial threats. Quantum entanglement networks are at 98.7% synchronization, she reported to Anderson. The system they had developed was more than just a military defense grid. It was a living, adaptive intelligence that could respond to threats in microseconds. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, a series of automated facilities that had been masquerading as deep-sea mining operations began to reconfigure. Robotic systems, developed through decades of advanced AI and materials research, prepared defensive and offensive capabilities that would shock the Xarlian invaders. General Robert Chen reviewed the final preparations in the Cheyenne Mountain Complex. The facility that had once been the heart of Cold War-era defense strategies was now the central coordination point for humanity's most advanced technological defense system. "They think we're primitive," Chen muttered, watching the holographic representation of the Xarlian fleet. "They have no idea." The preparation had been decades in the making. After the first credible evidence of potential extraterrestrial threats emerged in the early 2030s, world governments had made an unprecedented decision. Instead of competing, they would collaborate in secret. Military budgets, research grants, and technological development were carefully redirected into a global defense initiative that appeared, on the surface, to be disconnected and fractured. Dr. Elena Rodriguez pulled up a comprehensive display of their adaptive warfare systems. Each technology had been designed with multiple layers of complexity. 1. Quantum communication networks. Unlike traditional communication systems, these networks could change their fundamental communication protocols in real time, making them virtually impossible to intercept or jam. 2. Adaptive AI warfare algorithms. Machine learning systems that could analyze and respond to alien tactics faster than any biological intelligence could comprehend. 3. Metamaterial defense systems. Defensive technologies that could literally change their physical and electromagnetic properties to counter incoming threats. 4. Psychological warfare computational models. Systems designed to analyze and exploit potential psychological vulnerabilities in alien communication and combat strategies. In orbit, what appeared to be a series of weather and communication satellites were actually sophisticated weapons platforms. Equipped with technologies that ranged from electromagnetic pulse generators to directed energy weapons, they represented a defensive capability far beyond traditional military technology. First stage camouflage is holding, reported Lieutenant Anna Petrova from the International Space Monitoring Station. The entire defense network had been designed to appear weak and disorganized, a deliberate strategy to lower the Exarlians' guard. Dr. Anderson pulled up a final systems check. The global defense network was more than just a military system. It was a living, breathing entity of human innovation. Every component was designed to adapt, learn, and respond with a speed and creativity that would be completely alien to the hierarchical and rigid Exarlian military structure. "They're scanning us," Chen observed, watching the alien fleet's initial reconnaissance efforts. "And they're seeing exactly what we want them to see." What that Exarlian saw was a fractured civilization, limited technological capabilities, internal conflicts, a planet ripe for conquest. What they didn't see was the most sophisticated, globally coordinated defense system ever conceived. Michael Anderson allowed himself a slight smile. Humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to turn perceived weakness into unexpected strength. The trap was set, and the Exarlian had no idea they were already caught. "Would you like me to continue to the next part of the story?" Lieutenant Carlos Rodriguez gripped the quantum neural interface of his adaptive combat drone, feeling the machine respond to his slightest neural impulse. The first engagement wasn't going to be a traditional battle. It would be a dance of technological innovation that would redefine interstellar warfare. Swarm protocol activated, the AI system announced, its voice a calm counterpoint to the intensity of the impending conflict. The Exarlian believed they were facing a technologically inferior species. What they were about to encounter was a networked combat system that defied everything in their tactical databases. Rodriguez's drone was just one of thousands, each a living, breathing extension of human tactical creativity. In the command center, Colonel Emma Whittaker watched the initial engagement unfold across multiple holographic displays. The alien fleet moved with mechanical precision, their weapon systems charging in synchronized patterns that had conquered countless civilizations. "They're using a classic hierarchical attack formation," Dr. Marcus Franklin observed, his fingers dancing across linguistic and tactical analysis interfaces. Designed to overwhelm through structured, predictable assault patterns. The Exarlian ships looked like obsidian daggers against the starfield, massive vessels that dwarfed anything in human military history. Their energy signatures suggested weapons capable of turning entire planetary surfaces to glass. Each ship represented technological superiority developed over millennia of galactic conquest. Rodriguez's drone network began its response. Instead of a traditional military formation, the human defensive strategy looked more like a living organism. Drones moved with an almost biological fluidity, using tactics derived from everything from cellular communication to stock market algorithmic trading. Adaptive response matrix engaging, the neural interface announced. The first Exarlian energy weapon discharge illuminated the darkness of space, a massive pulse that would have obliterated any known human military formation. But these drones were anything but conventional. Each drone was a quantum-linked unit, capable of instantaneous communication and adaptation. Where one was destroyed, the others immediately recalculated and responded. The attack that should have eliminated an entire defensive force instead met a constantly shifting, almost liquid defensive network. "They're analyzing our response," Rodriguez muttered, feeling the neural feedback from dozens of simultaneous drone perspectives. The human tactical approach was fundamentally different from anything the Exarlian had encountered. Instead of rigid resistance, they presented an adaptive, almost organic defense. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, no relation to Carlos, monitored the tactical algorithms from the underground research facility. The drone network was pulling tactical data from unexpected sources: ant colony defense mechanisms, bacterial resistance patterns, even economic competition models. Computational warfare is about more than firepower. she explained to the team around her. It's about unpredictability, about turning the enemy's strengths into vulnerabilities. The Exarlian fleet began to adjust its tactics. Each failed attack was immediately analyzed, with their advanced AI systems attempting to find patterns in the human defensive response. But human creativity was fundamentally different, unpredictable in a way that defied traditional computational analysis. Carlos Rodriguez's neural link allowed him to experience the battle from multiple perspectives simultaneously. A Exarlian energy weapon would target one drone cluster, only to find the units had already dispersed and regrouped in a completely different configuration. Psychological warfare protocols initiating, the AI system announced. The drones weren't just defending. They were sending carefully constructed signal patterns designed to create confusion in the alien computational networks. Each transmission was a complex mathematical puzzle, a communication that was simultaneously a weapon and a form of intellectual challenge. Colonel Whittaker watched as the first stage of engagement continued. The human defensive network was revealing itself not as a military force, but as a living, adaptive intelligence. They expected a conventional military, she said quietly. What they're getting is something entirely different. The battle wasn't about destroying the Exarlian fleet. Not yet. This was about demonstrating that humanity represented something the aliens could never fully comprehend. A species capable of turning limitation into strength, of finding victory through creativity, rather than pure technological superiority. As the first engagement continued, one thing became increasingly clear. This was going to be a war unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. Would you like me to continue to the next part of the story? Major Olivia Bennett stood at the center of a circular command room, surrounded by holographic displays that pulsed with complex communication algorithms. The Psychological Warfare Division was humanity's most unconventional weapon, a team of experts who understood that true conflict happened long before the first shot was fired. Initiating mimetic cascade, she commanded, her voice calm and precise. The Exarlian communication networks were about to experience something far beyond traditional electronic warfare. What Bennett's team was preparing was a multi-layered assault designed to penetrate not just their technological defenses, but their fundamental cultural understanding. Dr. Marcus Franklin approached the main console, his fingers moving with surgical precision. We've analyzed their communication hierarchies, he explained to Bennett. Their entire societal structure is built on a rigid top-down information control system. Every communication is a reinforcement of their imperial hierarchy. The first wave of transmissions looked like random noise to any conventional scanning system. Quantum encrypted signals embedded with complex psychological triggers began to infiltrate Exarlian communication networks. Each transmission was a carefully crafted piece of intellectual warfare. Mathematical puzzles that challenged their computational systems, linguistic patterns that introduced subtle cognitive dissonance. In the underground research facility, a team of linguists, psychologists, and advanced AI specialists worked in perfect synchronization. They weren't just sending messages. They were constructing a comprehensive assault on the Exarlians' collective psychological framework. Target their communication reliability first, Bennett instructed. Make them question the very information they're receiving. The first signs of impact began to emerge. Exarlian communication channels started to show subtle irregularities. Minor discrepancies appeared in their fleet-wide information networks, nothing significant enough to trigger immediate defensive protocols, but enough to introduce doubt. Lieutenant Anna Petrova monitored the signal infiltration. We're seeing initial breakdown in their communication consistency, she reported. Their AI systems are struggling to reconcile the incoming data streams. What that Exarlian didn't understand was that each transmission was a multi-layered weapon. On the surface, it appeared to be random noise. Beneath that, complex psychological triggers were being introduced. Mathematical sequences that subtly challenged their computational logic, linguistic patterns that introduced cognitive friction. Dr. Elena Rodriguez pulled up a comprehensive display of their psychological warfare strategy. "We're not just attacking their systems," she explained to the team. "We're attacking their fundamental understanding of information reliability." The Exarlian fleet's communication networks began to show signs of internal stress. Reports from different ship sections became slightly misaligned. Computational systems that had previously worked with machine-like precision started to introduce minor inconsistencies. Major Bennett watched the holographic displays with a clinical detachment. Each transmission was carefully designed to exploit the Exarlians' most fundamental weakness, their belief in absolute information control. "Introduce cultural destabilization protocols," she commanded. The next wave of transmissions was even more insidious. Carefully constructed narrative fragments began to infiltrate their communication networks. These weren't simple messages, but complex psychological triggers designed to introduce doubt about the very nature of their imperial mission. Images, mathematical sequences, linguistic patterns, each transmission was a precise intellectual weapon. The goal wasn't to destroy, but to create fundamental uncertainty. "Their fleet is beginning to show signs of communication stress," Dr. Franklin observed. The rigid Exarlian communication hierarchy was experiencing something it had never encountered, a form of warfare that didn't follow any conventional rules. Carlos Rodriguez, still managing the adaptive drone network, noticed the psychological impact immediately. The Exarlian fleet's movement patterns were becoming less synchronized. Their previously perfect formation was developing subtle but noticeable fractures. Colonel Emma Whittaker entered the Psychological Warfare Command Center. "Status report," she demanded. Major Bennett allowed herself the slightest smile. "We're introducing controlled chaos into their communication networks. They're experiencing something far worse than physical attack. They're experiencing intellectual uncertainty." The Exarlian fleet continued its approach, unaware that the real battle was happening at a level of communication they could barely comprehend. Humanity was fighting a war of information, of psychological manipulation, of turning the invaders' greatest strength into their most profound weakness. "Would you like me to continue to the next part of the story?" Dr. Ryan Thompson's research facility looked like organized chaos. Captured Exarlian technology lay disassembled across massive holographic workstations, each component analyzed at the quantum level. What would take most species decades to comprehend, human researchers were decoding in hours. "Quantum resonance analysis complete," announced a sophisticated AI system. The alien technology was about to meet its most dangerous challenge, human innovation. The first Exarlian weapon component had been carefully extracted during the initial engagement, a particle weapon that could theoretically disintegrate matter at the molecular level. Where other species would have been intimidated, Thompson's team saw an opportunity. "Break it down," he instructed Dr. Aria Nakamura, the lead quantum engineering specialist. Her fingers moved across holographic interfaces, peeling back layers of alien technology with surgical precision. Beneath the facility, massive quantum computing clusters worked simultaneously. Each system was running millions of computational scenarios, analyzing the alien technology from perspectives that defied traditional scientific understanding. They weren't just studying the technology, they were reimagining it. Initial breakdown shows fascinating molecular structural differences, Nakamura reported. The Exarlian weapon wasn't just a tool, it was a complex system of interconnected quantum states that maintained structural integrity through advanced energy manipulation. Thompson walked across the research floor, watching teams of specialists from diverse scientific backgrounds collaborate. Physicists worked alongside materials engineers, quantum computational experts communicated with xenobiological researchers. This wasn't just a research facility. It was a crucible of human intellectual potential. "Adaptive replication protocol," Thompson commanded. The facility's advanced fabrication systems began to reconstruct the alien technology. But they weren't simply copying, they were improving. Where the Exarlian design used complex energy conduits, the human adaptation introduced quantum entanglement principles that made the original design look primitive. General Robert Chen observed the research from a secured communication link. "How fast can we weaponize this?" he asked. Dr. Nakamura pulled up a holographic representation of their technological adaptation. "Not weaponization," she corrected. "Optimization. We're not just copying their technology. We're fundamentally reimagining it." The research teams worked with a level of creativity that would be incomprehensible to the hierarchical Xarlian scientific structure. They saw the captured technology not as a finished product, but as a starting point for innovation. A particle weapon designed for molecular disintegration was being transformed. The human adaptation introduced quantum stability mechanisms that could not only destroy matter, but potentially reconstruct it. It was the difference between a hammer and a molecular 3D printer. Communication interference detected. The facility's AI system announced. The Xarlian fleet was attempting to remotely disable or destroy their captured technology. But the research facility was built with layers of quantum-encrypted defensive mechanisms. Each attempted intrusion was not just blocked. It was studied, analyzed, and turned into another opportunity for technological innovation. Dr. Thompson walked to a primary workstation where a captured Xarlian communication module was being dismantled. "They believe technology is a linear progression," he explained to his team. "We see it as a creative opportunity." The facility's computational systems were doing something unprecedented. They were not just analyzing the alien technology. They were predicting potential future technological developments based on the captured components. Millions of potential technological iterations were being computationally explored every second. Area Nakamura pulled up a comprehensive display showing their technological adaptations. What had started as a single captured weapon component was now a comprehensive technological framework that expanded human scientific understanding by decades. "We're not just adapting their technology," Thompson observed. "We're demonstrating the fundamental difference between technological acquisition and true innovation." Each research team worked with a sense of purpose that went beyond military strategy. This was a moment of scientific discovery, a chance to push the boundaries of human understanding. The Xarlian had brought them a gift, the opportunity to leap forward technologically in ways no one could have predicted. The facility's quantum computing systems continued their relentless analysis. Millions of potential technological iterations were being explored, each one pushing the boundaries of what was scientifically possible. Humanity wasn't just preparing for war. They were preparing to revolutionize their understanding of technology itself. Would you like me to continue to the next part of the story? Admiral Catherine Wells stood on the bridge of the USS Prometheus, humanity's most advanced combat vessel. Unlike traditional military ships, this was a living, adaptive combat platform that represented the pinnacle of human technological innovation. "Proxima Centauri engagement initiating," she announced, her voice calm and precise. The battle space transformed into a three-dimensional chess match of unprecedented complexity. Human forces moved with a fluidity that defied traditional military doctrine. Where the Xarlian expected rigid formations, they encountered a living, breathing combat network that responded like an intelligent organism. Carlos Rodriguez's drone network had evolved into something far beyond its original design. Each drone was now a quantum-linked intelligence, capable of making split-second tactical decisions that would have taken traditional command structures hours to deliberate. Adaptive combat matrix at 99.8% synchronization, the ship's AI reported. The Xarlian fleet's initial assault was a masterpiece of military precision. Massive energy weapons capable of turning planetary surfaces to glass began their devastating discharge. But human defenses were anything but conventional. Quantum adaptive shields absorbed and redistributed incoming energy. Where a traditional defense would have collapsed, these shields transformed the incoming weapon discharges, turning destructive energy into computational data. Dr. Elena Rodriguez monitored the tactical algorithms from the underground research facility. "They're fighting the war they know," she observed to her team. "We're fighting a war they can't even comprehend." Each human combat unit was more than a weapon. It was an adaptive intelligence. The drone networks moved like a living ecosystem, constantly recalculating, learning, and responding. Tactics pulled from biological systems, economic competition models, and advanced computational theories created a combat approach that was fundamentally alien to the Xarlian understanding of warfare. Admiral Wells watched as the first major engagement unfolded. The Xarlian expected a traditional military confrontation. What they encountered was something entirely different. Psychological warfare protocols engaging. The ship's AI announced. The combat wasn't just about destroying enemy vessels. It was about demonstrating a fundamental difference in approach. Human forces didn't just fight. They analyzed, adapted, and transformed the very nature of the conflict. A Xarlian battleship attempted to execute a standard attack vector, a maneuver that had decimated countless civilizations. But human forces met the attack with a response that defied computational prediction. Drone clusters split, reformed, and redirected with a speed and creativity that made the alien tactical systems struggle to maintain coherence. "They're trying to understand our response," Carlos Rodriguez reported, his neural interface allowing him to experience the battle from multiple perspectives simultaneously. But our tactical approach doesn't follow any predictable pattern. The quantum communication network that linked human forces was more than a communication system. It was a living, adaptive intelligence that could redistribute tactical information faster than the Xarlian could process it. General Robert Chen watched from the Global Defense Coordination Center. "This isn't just a battle," he observed. "This is a demonstration of human potential." Each destroyed human vessel wasn't a defeat, it was an opportunity for tactical learning. The adaptive combat systems immediately incorporated data from the destruction, updating tactical approaches across the entire combat network. Admiral Wells allowed herself the slightest smile. The Xarlian were experiencing something they had never encountered in millennia of galactic conquest, an enemy that didn't just resist, but fundamentally transformed the nature of conflict. "Full tactical adaptation protocol," she commanded. The human forces began to do something unprecedented. They weren't just defending. They were systematically dismantling the Xarlian fleet's tactical infrastructure. Each engagement was a surgical strike that went beyond physical destruction, targeting the very computational and communication systems that made the alien fleet functional. As the Battle of Proxima Centauri continued, one thing became increasingly clear. This was more than a military engagement. It was a fundamental challenge to the Xarlian understanding of technological and tactical superiority. Humanity wasn't just fighting a war. They were redefining the very concept of warfare itself. Would you like me to continue to the final part of the story? Dr. Thomas Harris stood before the global communication array, the weight of humanity's response balanced carefully in his hands. This wasn't just a message of victory. It was a declaration that would echo through the galaxy. The Xarlian fleet, once seemingly invincible, now drifted in fractured formations around Proxima Centauri. Their once pristine ships looked like wounded leviathans, testament to a conflict that had fundamentally reshaped their understanding of technological warfare. "Prepare global transmission," Harris commanded. In the Global Defense Coordination Center, Colonel Emma Whittaker watched the final stages of the conflict unfold. The battle had been more than a military engagement. It was a comprehensive demonstration of human potential. Colonel Robert Chen reviewed the tactical data. The human losses were significant, but each destroyed vessel had been a learning opportunity. The adaptive combat networks had transformed battlefield destruction into computational advancement. Where other civilizations would have seen defeat, humanity saw evolution. The communication team worked with surgical precision. The message would be simultaneously transmitted across multiple frequencies, quantum-encrypted channels that would penetrate every Xarlian communication network. Dr. Marcus Franklin, the lead xenolinguistic specialist, had crafted a message that was simultaneously a warning, a challenge, and an invitation. The transmission began. "To the Xarlian Imperium, You arrived believing you UNDRSTODUS. UVIWD our planet as a primitive world ripe for conquest. What you discover is a civilization that our ancestors PRCIVDWEAKNES into UNPRECENTD strength. This QNFLITT was not a biodiversity. It was an introduction. We are not just a species. We are an adaptive intelligence that sees limitation as opportunity. Our diversity is our strength. Our creativity is our weapon. Our potential is human limited. You wanted war. We gave you an education. Humanity is TANDs NOTA as a QONQERE civilization. Beauty is a NEU galactic power. Approach with sea devotion. Approach with respect. Admiral Catherine Wells watched the transmission go out. It wasn't a traditional military communication. It was a philosophical challenge to the entire Starlian imperial structure. Dr. Elena Rodriguez monitored the computational response. The message was designed to do more than communicate. It was engineered to introduce fundamental cognitive dissonance into the Starlian computational networks. Transmission analysis complete. The facility's AI announced. Estimated psychological impact. Maximum disruption. Across the globe, humanity washed. Military bases, research facilities, and civilian populations understood that this was more than a battle. This was a defining moment in human history. Carlos Rodriguez, still linked to the adaptive drone network, felt the collective consciousness of the human defense system. Each drone, each computational network carried the collective creativity, resilience, and potential of an entire species. The Axarilian fleet began a systematic retreat. Their computational systems were struggling to process the conflict. This wasn't a conventional military defeat. This was a fundamental challenge to their entire understanding of technological and cultural superiority. They're analyzing, Lieutenant Anna Petrova reported, but they can't comprehend our approach. Dr. Ryan Thompson reviewed the technological advancements gained during the conflict. The captured Starlian technology had been transformed, reimagined in ways that would advance human scientific understanding by decades. General Chen understood the deeper significance. This wasn't just a defensive victory. This was a declaration of human potential. The message continued to broadcast across multiple frequencies. It wasn't just a communication to the Axarilian. It was a message to the entire galaxy. Humanity was announcing its arrival as a serious galactic civilization. As the Starlian fleet retreated, one thing became absolutely clear. The galaxy had fundamentally underestimated humanity. This was not an end. This was a beginning. A new chapter in galactic civilization had just been written, and humanity had written it in its own unique, unpredictable way. Would you like me to elaborate on any aspect of the final part of the story?